Welcome to Paper Mache Patch. I am Suzette. I am a mixed media artist and a sculptor with over 10 years of experience. Today, I'm going to show you how to make a simple snowman ornament. Gather your supplies and let's get started. Hi, today I am going to show you how to make an adorable snowman. We're going to begin with just a scrap block of wood. I just had this lying around the house, so I just sanded the edges right here, and I also just gave it a coat of gesso to prime it. So it's a snowman, so it's going to be white. I don't like it too stark, so what I do is, in addition to my white paint, I add a bit of unbleached titanium. Let me show you this one. This one is by Mache, but any brand will do. I just literally want a bit like that. And then I am going to add some white paint to that mix. You can go ahead and grab a palette knife and just mix your paints together. It's better to do with a palette knife and with a brush because you don't want to ruin your brush. This paint is almost finished, so it's kind of stuck in there. That's looking good. I don't know if you can see, but it just takes the edge off of the white paint that we have. So the next stage, or the next step rather, is going to be coating this with your paint. So for that, you're going to need a brush, whether it's a sponge brush. If you don't like lines, you can use a sponge brush, or just a regular acrylic brush. Or brush for acrylic paint rather, and go ahead and coat your wood. I'm going to do let me just move this over here. I'm going to do the front and the back first. Then I'm going to move on to the sides because I need somewhere to hold, so I'm just working like that. As you can see, the back of my wood isn't even that great, but that's fine because it's going to be like a nice rustic old snowman ornament. So go ahead and coat that. When you're finished, you can just stand it up and do those bits that you missed. And then we're going to leave that to dry. If you have a lot of paint left over like me and you plan on doing more, you can just use some, it's called a Glad Seal, I think. Let me just grab it. There we go. It's called Glad Press and Seal. And I find that it's perfect when you have leftover paint that you've mixed. You can just go ahead and cover it like that and save it for another project. So leave that to dry, and when we come back we will start decorating the face. If you need to add another coat, of course, you can do that before you start decorating the face. Alright, this is more or less dry. So the next part, the next thing we're going to do rather, is we're going to add our face. Now a good idea is to just try and draw your face first. I wouldn't practice right on here. That way you're just copying it when you're you know, drawing it directly on here. So leave a space at the top right here, just roughly, for your hat that we're gonna stick on. And then go ahead and work out where you want your eyes. I kind of want mine close together, so I'll probably do one about here and here. So go ahead and mark in those eyes. Remember, it's just rough. You can always erase it. If it doesn't erase well, you can go over it with more of that paint that we have saved. So just to give you a guideline, just work out roughly where the center is. And then from there, it would be easier to add those eyes. You can do them as big as you want, as small as you want. You can do them looking to the left, you can do them looking to the right, straight ahead. It's up to you. Once you start adding his eyes, you'll find that the face comes together nicely. I add little eyebrows as well. Now I'm just cleaning up those edges. For his nose now, it's a little carrot. And we just draw that in place right there. You can also add a little pattern if you want, but I would wait to add the pattern until you're finished. You can add a mouth or not add a mouth, that's up to you. And we're going to add some buttons here going down. So I'm going to add a mouth. So the mouth would be, the nose kind of covers part of it. So I'm just going to do dots. And I think that would be the mouth right there. Okay, I'm just going to adjust it a little bit. And think I'm just going to give him a little smile right there instead. That's much cuter. I'm also going to make this point up a bit more. So as you can see, I'm just rubbing out. Like I said, if it doesn't work with the eraser, we can just go over that area with some paint. So I'm happy with that face. I think it's quite cute. So what I'm going to do now is use my Posca Markers and go over the face. And then if there's any little area that needs correcting, I'll go back and use my paint and correct it. I love using Posca Markers when I'm doing stuff like this. You of course can use your acrylic paint if you want to, and a paintbrush. I just find the markers a lot easier to use. So go ahead and fill in the eyes. Remember, this is whimsical, we're not going for perfect. So if one eye is slightly bigger than one, you can try and correct it, but don't worry about it too much. I'm going to let that dry and go down to the nose. So Posca Markers, for those of you who don't know, are acrylic markers, meaning they're markers with acrylic paints in them. And then I'm just gonna add my little mouth. We'll need to go over those eyes also in a bit, but I'm gonna wait until I do the white. So I'm gonna let that dry for a minute, go in and do the white, and we'll take it from there. The eyes look dry enough now for me to go in with my white Posca. And I'm just gonna start just going around the edges right here, and then just filling in. I might have to do it more than once to cover up the pencil. The tip might get a bit dirty as well because of the pencil, but you can just clean that on your paper. See right here, it's looking gray. That's because of the pencil, but when we go over it again, it will be perfectly white. Any mistakes we make, we can it will be fixed as well when we go over it. So my orange could do with another coat in some areas. As you can see, it got smudged a bit down there, but I will fix that shortly. I'm going to give this a quick dry. I'm just giving this another coat and filling any areas that I went over by mistake with the white. And dry that again, and then I'm going to go over the white. If you have a fine Posca marker, it would be great for the outline. I'm going to check if I have one. If you don't, you can use a regular Sharpie. Or a colored pencil could work. Anything you have on hand, really, that can outline. As you can see, even with the markers, I managed to make mistakes, but because it's acrylic, I can just as easily go over them. You'll see it all come together in a bit. I'm just going to clean up now with the paint that I had saved. I'm just getting a paintbrush rather that can go around those areas. You might have to do it several times, depending on how pigmented your paint is. When you do it, just try and blend in any of those little edges, the brush strokes. This is our charcoal pencil. This one is extra soft. I'm not sure what that was. We'll go over that in a minute. And you can use it to outline if you like. The only thing when you use a charcoal pencil is that you have to make sure that you use a spray varnish to seal it. But it adds pretty good, I like the texture that it brings with it. So the lines are much softer than if you were to use that Posca pen. And you can blend them if you want to. I'm happy with how that looks now. I am going to give it a coat of spray varnish and let it dry. I'm not going to do that on camera. I don't want to ruin my lens, and I also like to spray outside. Now it's time to put his hat on. Okay, so the the spray varnish is dry now, and I am going to add 2 little buttons right here in a minute. And I'm also going to add his felt hat. What I have done here, this is just a regular sheet of felt that you buy at a craft store. I've cut off 2 strips. They're just about 1/2 inch wide each. I'm going to use those to make the scarf. I need 2 because it's not long enough to go all the way around and tie. So let's begin with the scarf, shall we? So the scarf I want just about right here. So nothing fancy. I'm just going to go ahead and glue that in place with my glue gun that's already hot. I'll probably go back around and add more glue when I'm finished. But just to begin with, I don't want too much because, as you know, it can make a very big mess. And I'm happy with that right there. And then I'm going to use this other bit to go under right here. And we're going to glue it down. We won't use all of it, of course. So we don't want it really beyond the end. So like that is good. So we're just going to trim off that bit. And I kind of like it at an angle like that. So let me glue my buttons in place first, and then I will glue that in place. So my buttons, just regular wooden craft buttons. Just add 2 little dabs of glue. Try to get those strings off. And then just go ahead and stick on those buttons. If you want to take it one step further, you could actually put some thread through those buttons first before you glue them on. And that would look quite cute. For the scarf, the piece hanging down now, I think I'm going to put that right there. So I'm going to go ahead and just add more glue here. Keep that little spot in place. And thread this under. Decide on my placement. I'm happy with it right here, so let's just add a blob of glue and stick that down. Let me let that dry a minute. While that's drying, I'm just going to go ahead and secure the scarf all the way around without ruining my my ornament here with glue. Same here. I need to get a smaller glue gun, one of those fine tip ones for my crafts. I normally use my glue gun for building armatures for my sculptures, so not really detailed stuff like this. So I'm just fraying the edges a bit right there. And then I will also add some glue right there. So I think his scarf is pretty secure now. So we can now move on to the hat. Now for the hat, I am going to add a trim of glue. First I have to decide if I'm gonna add a little part that I fold up or not. So let's go ahead. I think I like the idea of having a little folded up part like that. If you can be bothered, you could go ahead and iron that in place. It's up to you really. Or you could go ahead and glue it in place. I am going to use a hot glue and just secure edges, one edge and then the other, and then I'll do the middle. I may or may not do that middle section yet, I'm not sure. And then I'm just gonna kind of wrap it around, make sure I have enough hair. And I think I do. We want the opening to the back so it doesn't show. So go ahead and line right there with hot glue. We'll do right there first. Kind of place it in the middle as much as you can. And give it a few seconds to just grab. We're going to do it around the rim pretty tight, so I want to make sure that that's stuck in place before I do the next section, which is hair. Same thing, go ahead and add some glue. Put it in place, make sure it grabs, and then we'll do this section here. Add some glue. And then finally, we'll do around hair. It will overlap a bit. If you don't want it to, you can cut it off, but I'm not really bothered. Right, so now his hat is in place. Get rid of any strings and cat hairs in my case. And then we're gonna bring it together and make a little pom-pom at the end right there. Alright, now our hat is in place. What we're gonna do now is to fray the edges some. Like what we did at, just snip the edges, probably at least an inch. So go ahead and get a pair of scissors and make some cuts. Let me move this up so you can see what I'm doing. You don't have to be precise. So we're just going to do that all the way across. Once you're finished making the fringe hair, we're gonna go ahead and get a piece of yarn or something to tie it with. You can also use the felt, it's up to you. I'm not quite sure which one I'm using yet actually. I might actually put this on then go over with the felt. Anyway, apart from that, I think I'm gonna stuff mine a bit because I want it to look a little fuller at the bottom. So I'm just adding some paper here, tissue paper. I'm going to see how much I need before I stick it in place with my glue gun. And I think that should be good. I don't need any more. So I'm going to go ahead and squirt some hot glue in there. I think I had unplugged that glue gun. Let me just plug it back in. This is a ceramic plate glue gun, so it does warm up very fast. I don't need a lot, I just want enough to hold that tissue paper in place for me so it doesn't shift around. And then the next step, I want it to have, I don't want it to stick straight up, I want it to have a crushed look like that. So I'm actually going to put more hot glue in there and push my felt down a bit on it this time. So once again, hot glue, I'm just kind of squirting some in there. Like that. See, I don't know if you can see it now, it probably went out of focus a while ago. And then just hold this together and then just kind of squish it around like that till it sets in place. The last step will be to tie this with your string or your felt. As I said, you can probably tie it with a string first and go around it with a band of felt, because you don't want to pull on the felt like that. It will most likely break. So I'm happy with how that looks. I'm gonna go ahead and snip off the excess right here. And maybe I'll just, I think I'm gonna add a piece of trim there to give it a nice finishing touch. So I'll be right back with a piece of trim and then we'll be finished. I have this lovely tinsel trim here. I'm gonna snip off a bit and add it to my hat. I think I'm gonna leave it dangling. It actually is a very cute effect. So let me just get rid of this little green bit. There we go. I'm going to tie that to the side. Double knot here. And then I'm just gonna give it a dab of glue right there, just to keep it in place. So let's get that mess off of it at the front. And there we have it. Our little snowman is all finished.